The Alari were one of the most intelligent species in the galaxy. Cold, logical, and emotionless, they believed every species existed only to survive and reproduce. Pleasure, love, or feelings. For them, such things were distractions. Bayari was one of their top scientists. She was chosen for a special mission: observe the humans. Her leaders believed humans were primitive, driven by strange emotional urges. Bayari's task was clear: study how humans reproduce and report back. When Bayari's ship landed on the human research base on planet Thalos 4, she felt no excitement. She was here for data, not friendship. She wore her silver research suit and moved like a machine, calm, controlled, precise. She met Dr. Aaron Voss, a human biologist assigned to work with her. He had a relaxed smile, messy brown hair, and curious eyes. He reached out his hand to greet her. Bayari looked at it and blinked. "Is this ritual contact?" Aaron laughed softly. "It's called a handshake. A greeting." She shook his hand coldly. "Strange. Your kind values touch even outside reproduction?" Aaron raised an eyebrow. "You could say it's part of who we are." Bayari found that inefficient, yet she logged it in her notes. Days passed. Bayari watched human couples interact, laughing, hugging, even kissing. She couldn't understand why they touched so much. To her, mating was a calculated process. You exchanged genetic material and that was it. But humans, they made it complicated. Late one evening, Bayari sat alone, reviewing footage. One couple was holding each other under a sunset. They weren't mating, just sitting close, touching hands. Their heart rates rose. Their eyes glowed with something she didn't understand. She rewound the footage. Again and again. "What is the purpose of this behavior?" she whispered. The next morning she asked Aaron directly, "Why do your people connect emotionally before reproduction?" Aaron looked at her for a long moment. "Because it's not just about survival. It's about meaning, intimacy, comfort, even joy." "Joy?" she repeated. "Is that a biological advantage?" Aaron smiled. "Maybe. Or maybe it's just what makes us human." Bayari didn't like not knowing, so she did what scientists do. She asked to test it. "I want to understand your bonding rituals. May I observe closely?" Aaron blinked. "You mean, like, participate?" "For research purposes." He hesitated. "You sure?" She nodded. "Only data, nothing more." That evening, they began a basic bonding simulation. They sat across from each other. Aaron spoke calmly, explaining eye contact, closeness, and trust-building exercises. Bayari followed each step. At first, she felt nothing. But when Aaron looked into her eyes, something shifted. Her heartbeat increased, slightly. Her breathing changed. "This is odd," she muttered. Aaron leaned forward. "It's called connection. I feel warm inside." She stood up suddenly. "I must analyze this. Something is wrong." She rushed to her quarters and scanned her body. No physical damage. But her neural pathways were reacting in patterns similar to stress, but it didn't feel bad. She couldn't stop thinking about Aaron's eyes. Later that night, she recorded a log entry. "Human intimacy behavior is highly inefficient. However, subjectively, it appears to create strong chemical responses that promote bonding. My own reactions are unexpected. Further study required." She paused. "This mission was meant to study reproduction, but I fear it may be something more." Bayari could not sleep. Her mind, usually calm and sharp like a laser, now buzzed with strange thoughts. The data from the bonding session was simple, but her feelings were not. She had touched Aaron's hand, looked into his eyes, and something inside her had stirred. It wasn't pain. It wasn't fear. It was unfamiliar. She reviewed her body scans again. Everything was normal, except the neural regions related to emotional responses were unusually active. She had no explanation. That morning, she walked into the lab with a tight expression. Aaron was already there, eating something called a breakfast burrito. The smell confused her sensors, spicy, heavy, and oddly comforting. "You look like you ran through a solar flare," Aaron joked. Vayari tilted her head. "I did not. I experienced turbulence in thought." He put down his food and looked at her seriously. "You okay?" She didn't answer immediately. Then she said, "Your bonding rituals caused unusual reactions in my system. I require further exposure for clarity." Aaron raised an eyebrow. "You want to run the experiment again?" She nodded. "But deeper, more contact, longer duration." Aaron hesitated. "Vayari, these aren't just rituals to us. What you're asking for is personal. I am aware. I must experience all levels of interaction. I request full immersion." Aaron studied her for a moment. Then he gave a slow nod. "Okay, but this time, no lab notes, just experience." They began with something simple, sitting close. Vayari noted how human bodies naturally lean toward warmth. She mimicked Aaron's position. Their knees touched. "This feels odd," she whispered. "You'll get used to it," Aaron replied, smiling gently. Next, he guided her hand to his chest. "Feel the heartbeat. It tells you what we feel." Vayari felt the rhythm, strong, steady, but when Aaron touched her hand in return, her own heart began to beat faster. Her breath shortened. "Your system is reacting again, Aaron," said, voice low. "Yes," she answered, "and I do not wish it to stop." That sentence shocked her more than anything else. Later, they walked outside under the blue sky of Thalos 4. Vayari had always seen nature as random data: wind speeds, light levels, humidity readings. But beside Aaron, she noticed colors, sounds, scents. A breeze moved her hair and he gently tucked a strand behind her ear. She didn't pull away. "You're changing," Aaron said softly. "I am observing," she insisted. "No," he said. "You're feeling." That night, Vayari sat alone, writing a private log. Today, Aaron placed his hand on mine for several minutes. My pulse accelerated. My skin temperature increased. My brain released oxytocin, a bonding chemical. I had previously considered this a flaw in the human system. I may have been wrong. She paused. This is not just science anymore. This is discovery. The next day, she requested to experience a human embrace. Aaron chuckled, clearly surprised, but he nodded. He wrapped his arms around her gently. Vayari stood frozen. No data prepared her for this. His chest was warm, his breathing calm. For the first time in her life, she felt protected. "This is not logical," she whispered. Aaron didn't let go. "It doesn't have to be." Something inside her cracked, quietly, deeply. That night, her people contacted her through the ship's neural comm. "Vayari, report your findings." She stared at the blinking signal and turned it off. Back in the human outpost, Aaron sat by a fire. Vayari joined him silently. They didn't speak for a long time. Then she looked at him and asked, "Do humans always feel this much?" Aaron nodded, slowly. "When we let ourselves..." "Yes." She looked into the flames. "I fear I'm beginning to understand." Vayari stood in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection. Her skin was still silver blue, her eyes still sharp and glowing, but something behind those eyes was changing. The cold logic of the Ilari had always ruled her. But now, that? Control was slipping and she didn't know how to stop it. Her chest felt tight. Not from fear, not from danger, but from something more dangerous: emotion. Earlier that day, she and Aaron had run another bonding simulation. It began with eye contact like before. But this time, Veari leaned in closer. Their faces were inches apart. She could feel the warmth of his breath. Aaron's voice was soft. "You don't have to force it, Veari." "I am not forcing," she replied. "I want to know what this pull is." Aaron gently reached out and placed a hand over her heart. That's your body telling you it's okay to feel." Her breath caught, and then his hand moved down her arm, slow and careful. Her sensors triggered instantly. Skin sensitivity rising, blood temperature elevated. Neural sparks over 70% above baseline. She stepped back. "This is not science," she whispered, almost afraid. "No," he said. "This is connection." Back in her quarters, she ran diagnostics on herself. Her body was in perfect condition, but her mind was in chaos. Every scan said she was stable, yet she felt unstable. Her memories of Aaron, his smile, his touch, played again and again in her mind. Was she malfunctioning? She accessed the Ilari medical database and searched. Symptoms of neural overload caused by emotional exposure. But what came up wasn't a malfunction. It was something called cross-species bonding syndrome. It was rare, almost mythical, and extremely dangerous for her kind. She leaned back slowly. "I am bonding," she said aloud. But the strangest thing, she didn't want to stop it. Later that night, Veari went to Aaron's quarters. He looked up from his tablet when she entered. "You okay?" he asked. "I am uncertain," she said, voice low. "I feel heat. Here." She touched her chest. "And here." She touched her lower abdomen. Aaron blinked. "You mean arousal?" She hesitated. "Ilari do not experience arousal, not in this way." He smiled gently. "Then you're not just a Ilari anymore. You're becoming something more." That sentence echoed in her mind like thunder. They sat together in silence. Then, without thinking, Veari leaned forward and touched her forehead to his. It was a gesture from Ilari culture, meant only for deep unity. Aaron knew the meaning instantly. "Veari?" Her eyes glowed faintly. "You've altered my chemistry, Aaron Voss. But I do not wish to return to what I was." "You don't have to," he whispered. But just as their lips nearly met, an alarm blared. Red lights flashed across the outpost. Aaron stood. "What the hell?" Veari's comm crackled to life. Ilari Scout Command to Veari. "You have violated protocol. Cease contact with the human immediately. You will be retrieved in 12 hours. Her body froze. Aaron turned to her. "What does that mean?" "It means," she said quietly, "they know, and they're coming for me." She walked out into the cold night, staring at the stars. Somewhere, out there, her people were watching, judging, waiting. For the first time in her life, she didn't care. She touched her chest again. The fire was still there, but this time, she didn't try to put it out. The stars above Thalos 4 sparkled like cold eyes. Veari watched them from the balcony, her hands clenched at her sides. The Ilari fleet was coming. 12 hours left. Then they would take her away, from the humans, from the outpost, from Aaron. But it wasn't fear that twisted inside her. It was loss. The kind of loss her people had erased from their culture long ago. She returned inside where Aaron was silently packing his things. Weapons, supplies, emergency beacon. "You plan to run," she said softly. "I plan to protect you," he replied. Veari stepped forward. "You cannot fight the Ilari." "No," he admitted. "But I can fight for you." That sentence hit harder than any weapon. No one had ever fought for her. Not her mentors, not her leaders, but this human, who was once just her subject, was ready to risk everything. She moved closer. "I want to remember this," she said. "Remember what?" She gently placed her hand on his chest. the warmth, the trust, the you. He held her hand tightly, then reached to lift her face to his. I don't want to lose you either, he whispered. And then, it happened. A kiss. Not aggressive, not forced, just true. Her eyes fluttered closed as her mind lit up with sensations. The data couldn't measure it. The scans couldn't explain it. Her body, once made to obey logic, was now learning a new language, the language of desire. Hours. Later, Vayari sat alone at the computer terminal. But instead of research logs or DNA scans, she opened something she never thought she'd access. Human literature. She typed, first experiences of love. Poems appeared, music, short stories. She read them all. Each word felt like a mirror, each sentence a reflection of what stirred inside her. She realized something terrifying and beautiful. Humans didn't just survive. They lived, and now she wanted to do the same. Suddenly, a sharp tone echoed through her mind, a direct neural message. Vayari, you are in violation of Ilari law. You have 13 minutes to report to extraction point. She didn't answer. Instead, she accessed her private logs and recorded one final entry. To the Ilari High Council, my mission is complete. I have discovered a force more powerful than genetic data, more lasting than legacy. Humans bond through emotion, through touch, through shared memory. And through them, I have remembered what it means to feel. I will not return. She pressed send. Aaron stood outside the base, looking at the trail leading into the hills. The extraction zone was just beyond the trees. Vayari walked up behind him. They're coming soon. He didn't look away. Then we run now. She placed a hand on his shoulder. No, I'm done running, but I'm also not surrendering. What are you going to do? She turned her eyes to the sky. I'm going to show them what I've learned. Exactly 13 minutes later, the Ilari vessel descended, sleek, cold, perfect. Two enforcers stepped out, covered in reflective armor. Their voices echoed, Vayari, you will return with us. You have been compromised. Vayari stepped forward, calm, strong. I have not been compromised. I have been completed. They raised their weapons. Aaron moved to shield her, but she lifted a hand to stop him. Let me, she said. She opened her arms, stepped closer to the enforcers, and did something no Ilari had done in centuries. She cried. One silver tear ran down her cheek. I feel, and I'm proud of it. The enforcers paused. Their scanners beeped strangely. One of them took a step back. You're no longer fully Ilari, he said. Correct, Vayari whispered. I am something new. And for the first time in history, the enforcers didn't attack. They left, without a word. That night, under the open sky, Vayari sat beside Aaron. Her head rested on his shoulder. You could have gone back, he said. I already did, she replied, but I wasn't the same anymore. Aaron smiled. And now? She took his hand. Now I'm exactly who I was always meant to be. The outpost felt quiet, too quiet. Birds no longer chirped. Even the wind seemed to pause, as if holding its breath. Vayari stood on the edge of the cliff, watching the stars fade as the morning sun rose. Behind her was the human world she was learning to love. Above her, the Ilari ship still hovered, silent, cold, watching. Aaron stepped beside her, arms crossed, face tense. They're not done, he said. They'll be back. She nodded. They will return, but they won't take me. Aaron looked at her. Are you sure? They won't just ask next time. I am not afraid anymore, she whispered, because I finally know who I am. Later that day, a message flashed on the comm screen inside the lab. Ilari High Council requests final communication. Aaron glanced at her. Want me to shut it off? Vayari slowly shook her head. No, I need to face them, one last time. She stepped forward, activated the feed. 3 Ilari leaders appeared. floating in their high-backed chairs, emotionless as statues. Vayari, you have committed a breach of biological and ethical law. You bonded with a lesser species. This is a contamination of purpose. She stood, straight. I did not contaminate anything. I evolved. You are a product of a perfect system, they said coldly. Emotion is instability. Pleasure is distraction. You will return and undergo neural cleansing. Aaron stepped forward. She's not going anywhere. One of the Ilari narrowed his glowing eyes. Human, you are irrelevant in this council. No, Vayari interrupted. He is the reason I see what you never could. A long silence fell. Then the Ilari said one final thing. If you do not return, you will be marked as disconnected. All Ilari memory of your existence will be erased. You will be nothing to us. The screen went black. Vayari didn't speak. Aaron whispered, They'll erase you? Your name, your records, your history? She nodded. They will pretend I was never born. The sun was almost gone by the time they sat beneath the old tree near the cliffs. Vayari stared at the grass, her fingers brushing it softly. I spent most of my life believing I was part of something greater, that serving the system made me important, but now I realize I was just useful, not valued. Aaron said nothing. He just took her hand. She leaned her head against him. If I walk away from them, I lose everything I was. He turned to her. And if you stay, you lose everything you've become. Her eyes shimmered faintly. I don't want to be forgotten, but I also don't want to forget this. Hours later, Vayari opened a private file in the Ilari neural network. It was forbidden to speak directly to citizens once marked for deletion. But she didn't speak. She sent one image, a memory scan. It showed her and Aaron sitting under the stars laughing. Attached was a single line. If this is wrong, then I choose to be wrong forever. Then she severed her connection. The sky lit. Up Ilari ships turned away, engines glowing, leaving silently. The decision was made. She was no longer one of them. Vayari returned to the base. She walked slowly, as if each step was pulling her from one world and planting her into another. Inside, Aaron waited. It's done? She nodded. They're gone. You okay? She paused. No. But I will be. They didn't celebrate. They just held hands, breathing together in the stillness. There was no grand ending, only a beginning. One that no system, no law, no council could ever erase. Vayari no longer wore her Ilari uniform. It lay folded in a box, clean, sharp, and lifeless, like her past. Now she wore soft earth fabrics, a loose shirt, woven pants. Nothing scanned her vitals. Nothing tracked her thoughts. For the first time in her life, she was free from control. But inside her, a storm still brewed. Not fear, not logic. Desire. Aaron stood in the garden, planting new vines by hand. Vayari watched from a distance. She didn't understand why watching him move, sweat on his skin, dirt under his nails, made her heart race. Ilari scientists had trained her to suppress all such responses. But now the rebellion wasn't just in her mind. It had reached her senses. The scent of his skin, the sound of his breath, the way he said her name. Every part of her was awake and hungry for more. That evening, Aaron lit a fire outside the base. The stars above glimmered quietly. Vayari joined him, sitting on a blanket he'd laid out. They said nothing for a long time. Then she spoke softly. My skin reacts when you are near. My temperature rises. I feel full and empty at the same time. Aaron looked into her eyes. That's longing, Vayari. I want to understand it, she said, voice trembling. Not with data, but with you. He leaned in, brushing his fingers along her jaw. You sure? She nodded. I want all of it. No more filters, no more control. Their lips met again, slow, but deeper now, not like before. This time Vayari didn't analyze the feeling, she drowned in it. His hands explored her back. Hers moved across his chest, tracing every scar, every breath. Their bodies spoke a language that no translation device could ever carry. Touch became truth. Later, as they lay wrapped in each other, Vayari stared at the ceiling of their quarters. People would say I have corrupted myself, she said. Aaron smiled beside her. Then may all corruption feel this good. She let out a soft laugh. It was short, but it was real. I didn't even know I could laugh. You can do a lot more than you think, he said, brushing his hand across her arm. But deep inside something flickered. A presence, a shadow. That night, Vayari woke suddenly. Her neural interface, one she had thought deactivated, buzzed faintly. At the edge of her mind, someone was trying to connect. But not from the Ilari fleet, from within Thalos 4. She quietly stepped out of bed and walked to the console. Her fingers flew across the keys, unlocking ancient system logs from the planet's old mining days. What she found made her chest tighten. There was a hidden signal coming from beneath the surface. Old tech, but not Ilari. Something older. Alien. But not from her species. Unauthorized life form detected. Biopattern matching unknown. Aaron woke and found her staring at the screen. What is it? He asked, rubbing his eyes. Vayari's face was pale. Something else is here. On this planet, and it's waking up. Aaron stared at the flickering map. A blinking red light pulsed deep in the canyons where no one had gone in years. He looked at her. Do you think it's connected to your changes? She didn't answer right away. Then she whispered, I think it's connected to why I was sent here in the first place. Aaron frowned. You mean the Ilari lied to you? No, she said darkly. They used me. Suddenly, the rebellion inside her wasn't just emotional. It was biological. Something was calling her, and it wasn't done yet. Vayari stood at the edge of the canyon where the signal pulsed beneath the ground like a heartbeat. Aaron was beside her, holding a plasma torch. He glanced at the blinking scanner. It's right under us, he said. Whatever it is, it's waking up. Vayari didn't respond. Her skin was tingling again, but not from him. This was deeper, older. Something ancient was calling her. Not with words, with feeling. It was like the planet remembered her, or something inside it recognized her transformation. They climbed down the stone walls into a hidden cavern. There, surrounded by glowing roots and alien crystals, lay a black monolith, floating just above the ground. Silent. It was not Ilari. It was far beyond them. Aaron whispered, What is it? Vayari stepped forward slowly. I don't know. But it knows me. She reached out. As her hand touched the surface, the monolith flared to life. Bright golden light poured out in patterns, symbols, pulses, and then a voice. Not spoken, felt. You have awakened the forgotten code. Vayari fell to her knees. Flashes burned into her mind, memories of ancient beings, ones who were neither fully physical nor fully emotionless. They had once guided life across galaxies, but when logic overtook desire, they went into silence. Now her transformation, her rebellion, had triggered the signal. She had become the bridge, the key. Aaron held her tightly as her body trembled. But her voice was clear. This wasn't about reproduction or science. This was about balance. Aaron looked confused. What kind of balance? She looked at him, eyes glowing gold now. Between knowledge and feeling. Between survival and joy. Between existence and experience. The monolith spoke again. Inside her. You have written a new code. One that feels. One that loves. One that remembers. A beam of light shot into the sky. All across the planet. Dormant systems activated. Healing. Air reviving soil, rebooting ancient tech. The world was coming alive, not because of war, but because of connection. Back at the outpost, data poured onto every screen. Planets healing itself, Aaron muttered in awe. How is this even possible? Vayari stood at the center, radiant with new energy. Not just a Yalari, not just a rebel, she was something entirely new. A new species. A new code. The next day, she sent one final message into the stars, not to the Yalari, but to all species. We believed touch was weakness, that joy was distraction, that pleasure had no purpose. But now I know pleasure is memory, love is legacy, and feeling is power. Weeks passed. The story spread, first in whispers, then in waves. A Yalari who fell in love, a human who didn't let go, a planet that came back to life, not through weapons, but through one kiss. Vayari and Aaron built a new research center, not just to study life, but to feel it. Alien couples visited to learn what it meant to connect. Machines were redesigned to respond to empathy, not just commands. And Vayari? She laughed now. She smiled freely. She kissed Aaron whenever she wanted. She was no longer just a scientist. She was the seed of a new beginning. One night, as they lay under the stars again, Aaron asked, "Do you ever miss who you were?" She looked up at the sky and smiled. "No," she whispered, "because now I'm finally alive."